Danny, thank you. I think I've never interviewed an artist more than you. We've done it in all kinds of different settings at
We
this
have,
point,
yeah.
on Zoom, at the Troubadour,
Thank you for
here
having me
in
again.
your room.
Yeah, I don't normally demand like
in
really big
Skyline.
rooms like this, but Graham at Skyline insists on putting the DJs in these sort of quite grand rooms. So
It's
I
really
don't play pool, as you can see, or snooker.
So you have an all night long set tonight.
Yeah,
We don't know how long it's going to go. 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours.
yeah.
But one thing's for sure, I think all of your fans around the world would really have maybe for decades been dying to know, how do you approach an all night long set, an extended set, let's say, when it comes to being prepared with your tracks? Like, how are you organizing your tracks in Rekordbox? How are you going about when you're discovering music to play or organizing your music to play? How much music are you taking into account, and how are you going into all these different genres? Basically, how are you preparing for a set this long?
Right. Well, I'll try and sort of sum it up as best as I can. I think the preparation that goes into a set is in many ways it's the same regardless of whether it's going to be 2 hours or 8. Every single week, my preparation involves just sucking up as much new music as I possibly can, sifting through it, filtering it again until I'm left with the tracks that I really like, and that can be completely regardless of genre. So if I like a deep track, if I like a breakbeat track, if I like a full-on prog track or a techno track, I'll take these and add them into my library, even if I'm not playing a set that weekend where I can possibly fit in the deeper end or the more techie end or whatever. I just sort of hoover up as many sort of tracks as I can every single week. And then when it comes to the preparation for that weekend, there's an element of like thinking, okay, well, I'm playing a peak time set, so I'm going to sort of take, sort of 20 of my new tracks that are going to fit that. But I'll still hold on to all the other tracks, stockpiling basically. So any sort of deep tracks I might have, if I'm not playing any sort of deeper sets, I'll still stockpile those sort of deep tracks because I know at some point there'll be an opportunity for me to use them. I don't want to sort of have a great track and not be able to play it. I'd like to be able to sort of use it, whether it's in a mix, whether it be in some like, extended set somewhere. So the preparation every single week is, like I say, going through all my new music, and then the preparation really is just preparing a playlist for each week or each gig or whatever. And structuring the playlist, I mean, it might sound boring, but structuring that playlist in a way that you sort of just to kind of imagine how you would play them in the night. So you start off with the deeper stuff at the beginning, and then you move into the more sort of like slightly more up-tempo housey kind of stuff, moving into the more sort of up-tempo disco-y, going into more proggy, then towards techno, and then I structure it so that at the end of each playlist, you'll have like those sort of random tracks that might work at the end of the night. So then what I end up doing is end up building up a sort of like a catalogue of playlists that go back all the way to when I started being, since when I basically stopped using CDs. So we're going back to sort of 2009, and I've got a playlist going back all that way so I can sort of look back at sort of say, for example, 2014 May, and I was in Barcelona. You can see the sort of new tracks I got that week. And then what I find is, obviously, like when I'm going to play, whether it's a 2-hour set, whether it's a 4-hour set or 6, I'm focusing more on the most recent, playlist. But then, if a night like tonight, you'll be sort of like reaching further back. So what I found is, though, as well, this kind of way of organising playlists is the same as what it used to be with CDs, and even when it was in vinyl. Like when I used to play vinyl, you would have all your new tunes and you'd prepare your record box and leave home. But I would arrange my record box in a way that had all my deep stuff at the very front, then all the sort of slightly more, middle of the night stuff there after that, and then moving into the peak time stuff. So it's kind of sort of carried over from the vinyl days into what we're doing now, and also with CDs as well. I'd burn CDs that would sort of have that same kind of flow. You'd sort of like, so you could put it on, listen to it without mixing, and it would still kind of flow. That's what I try and do now. It's kind of over preparation as well, because then after that, I'll then go and make I'll take everything into Rekordbox and then make extra playlists, like, you know, possible startup songs or possible sort of end of night songs. And I kind of get a bit too much stuck into over preparation, but it's just a way I kind of got used to working.
It's totally cool. I have a question for you in terms of the flow of the night. Beginning of set to end of the set, there's obviously a journey. Do you think the main vehicle for moving from the beginning to the end is more about BPM, or is it more about the energy of the track itself? The reason why I ask is I made a post today about Jimmy Van M. He was talking about how his opening sets used to go from 124 to 128 BPM.
Yeah.
Now music, it was maybe quicker in the scene back then at around the turn of the millennium. But then Hernan Cattaneo commented and said, well, he was just clearing up the fact that a hard-hitting 119 BPM track could actually hit the dance floor harder and have more of an effect than a deeper 123 BPM track.
Yeah.
So it's not just tempo. And I'm wondering your opinion on that in terms of how you bring a crowd and a dance floor from the beginning of the night to an end of the night, and what's most important to you.
Well, he's right there, because it isn't about tempo. For me, it's about the energy. Like, you can have a track. I mean, I buy a lot of, like, say, for example, house tracks, and they will be quite frequently, they'll be at like 128, 130, sometimes even faster than that. But they have an energy that is kind of, it's weird. I find myself pitching them down. As well, if I'm opening a night, I won't be sort of specifically looking at BPM as much, but I'll be sort of looking at the energy. And a lot of the tracks that I would open a night with, I mean, maybe not so much here, because you're, you know, even though I'm playing all night long, you've still got guys playing, well, yourself and the other guys playing before me. But it would be sort of very sort of dubby, kind of spacey, very sort of quite low muffled kick drum. I find sometimes when you have, I'm not sort of saying it's wrong or right, but I find myself more comfortable when I play after people that it can be like 122, 124, but the energy is kind of right. Sometimes you can hear music being played at 118, but it's just a really heavy progressive track that's just been pitched down. And I find that quite hard to move into what I want to open with, which would be like more sort of housey, a bit kind of lighter. So yeah, I find as well, like with a long set, everyone does it differently. Like, I think like Hernan does it differently to me, and he will do it differently to, say, someone like Digweed. I think for me personally, I think I move around a little bit, and that's what I try and to get myself, interested, is to sort of move up and down and sort of a little bit left and right. And I like to try and keep things moving. And I think I struggle a bit more with sort of getting to a point where you've got this energy here and you sort of maintain it like that. I think that's where I come unstuck a little bit. So I don't try and do that. Even though I think that is kind of like how a lot of people do like it, I do sort of struggle to get that kind of solid, energy that will sort of stay on that kind of level. So I find myself, I think the joy of longer sets is that with the right crowd and the right venue, you can go down as well as up. And I think that's one of the things I saw Patrice say recently in an interview about one of the keys of like long sets was forget about just thinking always up. And again, it's different for each DJ, but for me, I think that's exciting. I think you can have I enjoy these sort of little mini sort of peaks and troughs and, building a moment and then bringing it back down again, and it's sort of creating a sense of drama. And I think that's again, one of the things that I used to love about Tenaglia and his marathon sets was he would create this sense of drama where, you'd have a peak and then you'd bring it right down. You wouldn't be sure what was going to be coming next. And then suddenly he'd erupt with a sound effect and then another track would steam in and it was like, whoa. And that is for me one of the joys. And I think again, preparation, it means I'm just trying to sort of refresh myself around my tracks a lot more, knowing, sort of earmarking those tracks where you think, okay, but that might be useful to get me from this style into this more kind of direction, or if I want to get from something a bit more kind of housey into something a bit darker, then this track is a kind of bridge. So it's just a lot of the preparation is just about refreshing your music, just trying to sort of be aware. You need to know your music. It's not like with vinyl where you need to know where every single break was, because now you can see that with CDJs, you see the waveform. So it's more about just kind of knowing the vibe of the track, and for me, knowing which kind of tracks are going to work this time of the night and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that in-depth answer.
Waffly, but hopefully there's something good in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Let's shift the focus quickly because you're going to be on soon. I want to give you time to prepare.
You're fine.
Each year, your set kicks off the season at Skyline, which is really awesome. But each year, you also benefit a different charity, a different movement, something that is important to you, but also important to the city of Glasgow.
Yeah.
Last year, it was animal shelter as a beneficiary.
Right, yeah.
This year, you're benefiting the homeless here in Glasgow. It must be nice to align your passion with, because we all care about music. We all care about things that are even more important in the world than music as well. It feels like with this event, you get to align the two of them.
Yeah, we do. And I think that's really important for me. It's like, I think we can, we have such a great life on the whole as DJs and producers and people that work in this industry. And I think it's nice to be able to work with people like Graham and Skyline, where you work together and do something that's not only going to be great fun for us that are here, but also benefit the sort of like local communities. So like last year we had Tribe Animal Sanctuary, which is like a local sanctuary, and they do amazing work. And I think a lot of the animal sanctuaries, well, nearly all of them, really struggle financially, especially in winter. So then this year we decided to mix it up, and we're supporting Homeless Project Scotland. Again, like another local charity, provide like great care, shelter, crisis line for like local homeless. So I think it's good. It's good to be benefiting like causes, but I think the fact is they're local as well. It kind of makes it a bit more special. And any chance to do things like this anywhere, I think are always fun. And I think for me, it just gives an extra, sort of good thing about the night, really, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Last question for you. You were the first guest ever here at Skyline. I'm not sure how many years it's been going on. Maybe 5?
2.5.
Oh, no. I'm trying to think of how many appearances you've had.
Oh, I think this is going to be, hold on, 1, 2,
5 maybe?
4? I feel like 5th.
Yeah.
This is the 5th.
I think 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We'll clear it up with Graham. But Skyline, as a clubbing brand, it's this glass rooftop in Glasgow. Now you have DJs all over the world who come here and play on a Sunday. They're wearing their Skyline shirts in all different countries around the world when they play. What's it like to build a special relationship with this Glasgow dance floor? Probably started decades ago for you, but it continues to this day annually. And what's it like to see the profile of Skyline kind of explode in our little corner of electronic music around the world?
Yeah, well, I think Scotland and Glasgow have always had a very good reputation as being like a really, really good quality crowd when it comes to clubbing. And I know even when I first started to get out of Hastings and started to travel out, London and further north, it was always one of those places you heard about. And the crowd were known as being a bit more sort of like full on, in a really good way, energetic and passionate and noisy as well. And I think that is one of the things that continues to this day. I think with Skyline, it's been really nice to see it grow. I think it's a combination. Obviously, you've got the great location, you've got the great crowd, and you've got like Graham and the team and the amazing opening, the resident DJs. All very, very passionate. I mean, when you speak to Graham, obviously his enthusiasm is kind of infectious, and that comes off in what he does here with Skyline. I think it's also really good as well to see, and it's had I think it's like a little knock-on effect as well. I've seen like other promoters up and down the country that I think are putting on nights and sort of trying to get things a bit more sort of like active again in cities that used to be sort of quite quite good in terms of clubbing, that have kind of drifted off the map a little bit. I think you had a lot of cities around the country where you had a lot of nights going on sort of back in the 90s and in the early 2000s, and then things drifted to sort of just the bigger cities really. I think I've seen a few people recently that are sort of trying to get things like sort of moving again, which I think is really good. And sometimes, for me personally, it's nice to sort of get involved in these kind of things as well. You're not quite sure what you're going to get, but you touch wood. Mostly, waffling a little bit. But definitely seen like a knock-on effect with people up and down the country that are sort of trying to sort of build up their cities again.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that's a very long waffly answer there. But
No, it's great though, and that's all I really have. I appreciate it. I'm so stoked to see you play.
Oh, bless you, man.
And,
So I was a bit waffly, but I think it's the caffeine.
No, it's cool. I'm gonna cut it down.
You know what I'm like.
Yeah.
You know how I talk.
Yeah, it's all good. That was great.